Good morning and welcome to Duality. I'm your host, Ash, and I'm here with our very special guest, Mariana.
Hi, Ash.
Thank you so much for being here. I wanted to take a chance to, settle in and do a meditation. I feel like this morning, I know for myself, I keep on feeling like it's almost in the present moment. It's like I'm right there. But I want to
Always
make sure
something
to
catching.
yeah, something catching and pulling away. So I want to really take that moment to like ground down and tune into the present moment. So
Awesome.
I have here the bowls. I have the crown chakra bowl and the solar plexus bowl with us. And if you're open to these vibrations here and now, just finding yourself getting into a comfortable seat so you could take some time for yourself. Now that I'm all lined up, today I completely forgot about my live on my phone, so full transparency, just had to adjust that for everybody to get into on all platforms. So thank you guys for your patience and bearing with me, and thank you so much for your patience and your understanding. So I want to invite everyone to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Feeling yourself in this present moment, whether you're sitting, you're standing, you're walking, you're moving, you're driving. Well, if you're driving, then use the meditation later, please. And allowing yourself to feel your awareness from the top of your head, going into your hair follicles, going down into your face, releasing any pressure you may feel, any tension you may feel in your jaw, your shoulders. Taking another deep breath in and out. Feeling into our chest, our arms, elbows, wrists, fingers, hands, our belly, our lower back, our hips, our seat, our thighs, knees, calves, ankles, and feet. And from this space, growing roots down from our feet into the ground and just grounding us into the land that's under us, whether we are out in a park or in a house. Just imagine it going through all of the layers that keep us apart from the actual soil, and imagine growing roots and just rooting down into there in a good way. And while you're in that space, preparing yourself to receive the vibrations of the solar plexus chakra healing bowl and the crown chakra healing bowl, which are both symbolic of the solar plexus is all about our inner child, our belief within ourselves. It's all about courage. And the crown chakra is all about our connection. It's about overthinking. It's about calming the mind so that we can receive the information that we are meant to receive from our ancestors, from our guides, in whatever way, form that comes to you, and yeah. So taking that deep breath in, allowing yourself to be able to receive, imagining anything that is blocking any of these centers in our body to be removed, replacing it with charged energy to be able to connect and be confident in that connection. it feels good for you, repeating after me, whether out loud or in your head. I trust myself. I love myself. I believe in myself. I allow myself to be connected to those before me. I am present. I'm beginning to wiggle your fingers and move your shoulders around and move your hips and just getting yourself in the present moment and whatever it feels good for you, opening up your eyes and returning back to this space. And thank you so much for taking that moment. You know, it's interesting how like we can start our morning and, you know, we are here early and like all of these different things. And, you know, sometimes we do these meditations in the beginning of the podcast because it's like, even me, you know, I do this every week and sometimes I'm like, I'm just not here right now. And I would like to be here and authentically experience being fully here, and what that needs is to take that moment. So, you know, rather than suppressing it or putting it away and being kind of here, you know, I want to invite anybody who's, you know, here with me or like on the journey listening to just, sometimes, you know, we start a book or we listen to an audiobook or a podcast and we can't always give our full presence to things. You know, maybe we have it on in the background. But then there's certain times when, say, we're studying where we need to give that full undivided attention.
You have to be intentional about the where you want your awareness to be. And I feel like these practices are good because you sometimes, even if your head is all over the place, you know, you take that time to like, I'm intentional to be here, to be present. And that opens up a lot more connection, a lot more, it just flows better into what we're going to be speaking because we just set the intention that we want to be here together and we want to create this space of connection and sharing.
Exactly.
Which is good. Also calm me down a little bit because this is the first time I'm doing this. And I was like, oh my God, how is it going to be, you know? And that feeling of like what I was commenting with you before, the transforming the fear from actually an excitement. I'm very excited to be here, very excited to be sharing, and very grateful for the space that you opened up for me to talk a little bit, to, you know, connect with you more, and then we can share our experiences. I love to hear what you have to say too, and I'm sure we'll create a good time. And then I hope that our listeners, wherever they are, they will connect somehow or get something interesting from what we have to say.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, thank you for, you know, bringing this topic and like literally being the embodiment of this topic. And this is why it's like, it's so important when choosing, you know, whether to have whoever to come on to the podcast, but choosing the, excuse me, the topic together, it be something that's super present for them, you know? So like this topic is super present for you and you're a living embodiment of what the title of just having the courage to do something different, you know? And in the question that I had asked, in our little infograph, you know, in our little speech bubbles is, you know, how do you know when it's time to change something, like when it's time to shift out of the norm, you know? And you responded with your answer, but I want to give you an opportunity and space to talk about it here.
Before even getting to that, one thing that I was thinking a lot when we came up to the topic of like the courage to do something different is when we think about different, like what is different, you know? Because sometimes different, you may create that sensation, or for me, like something completely out of what I'm doing right now. But sometimes the difference might be you're still doing the same thing, but just the way that you're approaching that, you know? So that part of like the courage to do something different, in answering your question about like when do you feel like you need to do something different? And for me, it was a feeling of like there was something missing. I was working, I guess, you know, my dream job. I had never even imagined that I would go so far on it. And there was something missing. Like I felt like I had grown inside of this box, and I needed to get out of this box somehow, like that there was something outside of it that I was missing or that I needed. So that was the when I had that feeling, I was like, okay, so I feel like I need to do something different. But then what is different, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the harder question to answer. And it's something that I feel like I'm constantly working on, is that what is different, and kind of deconstructing a little bit of different might not be just going through a completely different career path or going to a something completely different from what you would imagine yourself on. But maybe just the way you are approaching that, like cultivating things inside of you, that maybe the approach that you have on your career, on your path, on your journey, brings that click that helps you fill that missing thing, that out of like the need of growth, like that you're actually feeling like those parts are also being fulfilled.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like you're, even today, with what you were expressing before, when you were feeling that like maybe nervousness kind of coming up, that sensation, and then pivoting and like changing the perspective. Like I've been told to identify this as nervousness or anxiety, but really it could be shifted into excitement. It's like that pleasure pain threshold. It's like so many things are complementary and or on the same coin in different sides. And I feel like excitement and anxiety, right, fear, is one of those coins. So even just like simply taking that opportunity to, you know, be like, all right, this is something new. We're doing podcasts. Like, I'm going to be in a vulnerable space of like showing, you know, yourself and sharing your journey. But you know what? I'm going to make this exciting, right? And changing that, there's so much power in that. And I think that could be applied into the same scope of the bigger picture of like, okay, it's time to shift. Like, this is scary. Like, maybe, you know, this job that like a lot of people, especially that I've communicated with recently, have been having the same kind of like realization or like shift of like, I can't do this 9 to 5 solely, you know, maybe continue to do it, but like I need something else that's going to feed my soul. Like I need something else that's going to help expand either my education or my mind or something else, you know, that feeling of like something else.
Just something missing.
And that could be scary, but that could also be super exciting. And I think that continuing to shift those things, like that could happen in any transition, like even like, you know, on more of a, of like even endings, right? Like when friendships end or like relationships end, sometimes like it could, first we're focused on like, okay, this is sad, I'm grieving, all of these feelings are valid. But then there can also be in that pain, the excitement of, you know, there's a reason why things need to break, right? And if that breaks, it's giving more space. Maybe there's more expansion for more of you, for yourself, you know, and then that could be exciting. So just shifting into those perspectives, I think, is so important, you know, when looking at change in general, but then also like having the courage to follow up, because I feel like a lot of us know there's something missing.
Yeah. And then this is so beautiful that we're talking about that, because it was, I mentioned to you this feeling of like, I'm coming here on my commute and like just having this like almost at first recognized to me as like, I'm a little anxious to go there. I've never been on a podcast. I like, who's going to be listening? Like what, that fear, you know, and the same thing, like when you're trying to do something different, or when you think about like, oh, maybe I don't want to do this, that for my job or for a relationship or for that, but we have that fear of, or their anxiety that comes up with like doing something different, of getting out of your comfort zone. And the realization was, like, I had like this tingling sensation in my body and my heart is beating fast. And then I thought of like, when I'm really excited, that's how I feel, you know, and that's it. Like, I'm excited to go to this podcast. I'm really excited to see Ash. And, you know, I was a little fearful of like, oh, I'm going to Staten Island. And, you know, it was like what I was leaving. And then I'm coming back here again, and all those feelings, you know, and And I was like, but this is super exciting, you know? And this has been something that I've been wanting to do. So I felt like shifting that perspective. I feel super comfortable now here with you, and I'm grateful for that. And just having that change of like, you know, sometimes you're super fearful of doing something, but it sounds like a crazy idea. But if your heart is like pumping hard for it, and you like, there's something about it. Like, you need to explore that idea. You need to explore that feeling, and it might open up to amazing things, you know.
Absolutely.
And that's part of like the courage of facing this fear, even being the fear of being here in the podcast, which, you know, like, what fear is it? Am I gonna get? Is someone gonna kill me here? Is someone gonna think weird about what I said? You know, sometimes it's a little bit of an irrealistic feeling that we create. And the part of like the career path fear, which is something that I guess it was my focus, but then I see that it really perverts to so many things in our lives, right? Not only the career path, is that we feel like the career path, to the fears that we have around it are they create a much like larger sense of, you know, because you're just used to that. There's the financial part. There's, you know, I don't know what your parents expect of you, or what the society expects of you, or what you had created in your head that is what you expected of you, or you saw of yourself. And then when you still have that thing that is missing, and you're trying somehow to find something, there's all these fears that just jump there, and you're like, I don't know if I can get out of it, because, you know, I'm safe in this place. I excel in this place, you know. I'm here with my career, and I make a lot of money, or not, or this, and then you're like, how do I get out of here? Or maybe it's just also just shifting our perspective on how can you thrive in that way, but honoring that if you're missing something, if there's this feeling of like growing outside of the box, you need to embrace that. You need to try to identify and not let the fear of these other things kind of hold you back from pursuing the things that really ignite your soul, that really make you happy, that really like connects you with people. And for each person, I think it's a different thing, but it's a beautiful journey to embrace that search and have the courage to look for it.
Absolutely. And like going off what you were saying, like even that feeling, that like that ache, right? It's like an ache when it's time to grow. It's like that missing feeling, that knowing, and then usually onsets the fear, right? And then we could choose to transform that into fuel, excitement, you know, and things of that sort. But simultaneously, like there's something I believe Will Smith quoted someone else when he said it, but like all of the best things you've ever wanted are on the other side of fear. You know, if you're not afraid to do something, like there's a difference between feeling off or like having a bad feeling and like our intuition, you know, our system like alerting us like, okay, danger, and then it being something that's like valid in the present moment. Then a lot of times our alarm system's outdated, and it'll tell us like danger, but it's really just like change. But like when we were a kid, a change happened, and emotionally it might have put us in danger. So now we have this alarm system that's tied to something that anytime a change goes off. Exactly. and so it just like tapping in, like something you were saying before, when you know, when you're saying when you're on your way to when you're on the ferry and you're commuting and going back to somewhere where you're leaving, it's like that's something that's so incredibly like cathartic and beautiful for those who are ever ready to do that. Like whenever someone's walking away from something or someone or some place or whatever the case is, like a decision, I feel like when you really like when you're able to revisit it and do it in a different way, there's so much power in that, because then you're walking away from it and it's like you transmute it. It's like the same thing with the emotion of fear and excitement. It's like you take the perspective and you're like, okay, boom, I don't want this to be fear. I'm going to feel it as excitement. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to view the association with this place with one thing. Now it's what I want to leave off on, you know, so then you're taking that with you. Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing that you're actively choosing. And, you know, I think that that's something that's noteworthy for anybody who's, you know, going on the path of like just listening to themselves and doing different things that involve change and what that can look and feel like, and how, you know, those things can sit with us as like, at first, like almost like a repulsion, like it's like a push, like a no, like don't do that. But usually it doesn't stay. If you notice, it'll be like a push, but not like a hand doesn't stay there. It'll kind of be like almost like checking you. And the thing is, if we don't, like, for example, if you were on the ferry and you were just thinking about how anxious you were going to be coming here, and you didn't give yourself space to unpack that and like be like, am I actually at harm's way, or am I safe? Okay. You know, when you unpack that, you're able to look at it. It's like, you know, a doctor has a chart and you can walk in the room and you can ask the patient like what's going on, but like you can just open up the chart as well and like get down to like what you're trying to, you know, understand like in plain terms, you know. So it's like the actuality of the situation, like debunking it, right? We have these scenarios, these myths, these stories we tell ourselves with all of these different things. It could be as simple as a social interaction, like, oh, I have a dinner to go to. Oh, I don't know what to wear. Like, I'm going to be anxious if I have this wrong. What if I say this thing? We have all of these conversations, these situations and scenarios that we play out in our brain all the time. You know, I believe a lot of people do. Like, you know, and we can call that anxiety. Sometimes it's just like fun, you know, we're like having little movies. Other times it's not fun. It deprives us of doing things, you know. But taking that opportunity to be like, you know, something my therapist had said to me recently, she was like, why are you at your last like move of chess when you didn't even start the game, you know? And essentially something along the lines of that, like, why would you think so far ahead? And it's like, I know why. She knows why. You know, it's like it's all trauma based, but it's like simultaneously, I'm not in the present moment if I'm thinking 10 steps ahead. It's good to think maybe 5 steps ahead, be prepared, give yourself a cushion, then return back to the present moment. But if you're like thinking like a year,
like you're not trusting yourself. It's again that thing of like not trusting what's happening right now and trying to like hold on to like what is it that's going to happen in front of me. But you're never going to get in front of you if you don't create that place of trust on the now. And then that's hard. Like one of the things that I've been realizing now that, you know, this is what my 3rd month out of work, and then decided to like embrace this journey of being a year not working and exploring other things in my life, is like really trying to pay attention to like how my head operates and how I go about things on my daily life. And I have noticed how much planning happens in my head all the time, all the time. And I feel like when, you know, I'm busy with work and other things, it's just natural to be, you know, it seems at least natural. But now that I really don't have to be planning, I can just stay on my couch and do nothing all day. My head is planning all the time. All the time, Ashley. All the time. And it's like it's like you're addicted to that planning, and sometimes that can get into the way of enjoying what's happening in the moment. But I think it's a process of, you know, also accepting it. Okay, you know, you are in a world that requires some planning. Planning is not bad at all, you know, like it has its value. But recognizing too, you know, like you don't need to plan every single thing. You're able to like open up room for trusting what's happening, for, you know, maybe giving permission to other person also to jump in and help with an idea, and not needing to have everything figured out. That's something that I've been noticing a lot in myself, and I think that a lot of people also, do that of trying to plan in a way of, again, feeling safe, of not allowing ourselves to, I guess, to feel the fear or transform the fear into excitement.
Yep.
We're always trying to like cushion ourselves and into and I think it's a path of like learning to like identify these things and see what works and what doesn't. Like maybe this planning, I don't need this planning, but this planning is okay, and
Finding
and
the
little
middle
by
ground, yeah.
finding something that works in order to and opening up. And I feel like feeling that thing of like trusting yourself and trusting that you can do it. You don't need that much caution. You can, like if you fall a little bit here or there, it's okay. You're gonna be able to pick yourself up and continue.
Yeah, just reminding ourselves that we're human,
Yeah,
like
dude,
we're just
we are.
human. We're just people just trying to figure it out. And everyone's doing the same thing. We're all just trying to figure out what works best for us. Like it's so interesting because it's like, there's like the free spirits of like that never plan anything, right? And then there's the super like type A that plans everything, right? And it's like, I think that finding that in between of just like you were saying, like giving a space for a surprise, like excitement, like, okay, like, I'm going to do something like spontaneously, or I'm not going to know what I'm going to do for 2 hours in the day, even if it's not for the whole day, but just like allowing the space for the universe to surprise you. Because if we try to calculate everything, we're not leaving space for anything or anyone, not even ourselves, because we're not even in the present moment. We're just thinking about when we will be.
Do. Yeah. What's the next thing?
Exactly. When I'm there, and then when you're there, you're probably doing the same thing again. Just think about the next thing. So it's like, it's important to just like find that balance and just be like, okay, I'm okay with just like existing today. I'm okay with just being and just sitting down and just like existing on the couch or in the park or reading or scrolling, whatever it is. Just, I think it's important to not feel guilty about just being. And that's something that it looks different for everyone, just integrating like what is just being. Like what does that mean in a society that has been pushing us to always be doing? Yeah, like what does just being look like? And it's like, I know for myself, it's like just surrendering to what I want to do in the moment without it being something that would give me like a short-term gain in like a long-term like deprivation. Like, so like I feel like just being for me would be more so like closing my eyes and taking a breath and just existing and allowing myself to not be thinking about the future would be the definition of just being for me, and I know for everyone else there's
it's different.
It's different. Yeah, it's just simply like surrendering to the moment. Any moment would be just being.
Yeah, and I feel like it's almost like a dance with surrendering, the surrender, because we're so conditioned to be thinking about all these things that the natural is our mind to like be planning or thinking about what you're going to do in the future, or I don't know, some people sometimes focus more in the past, and it's a dance of like being present and not being present. And it's cool to allow yourself to observe that shift, or to understand when your mind is just like going to so many places and you're trying to bring it to that present moment. And it's cool. It's like you're in and out of presence, and it's like a learning process of doing that. But yeah, man, I'm with my type A personality. I feel like sometimes it's the planning gets into the way, but this experience of like actually like taking the step out of what I was doing for the last 15 years, and kind of like allowing me to have space to to bring something different in a very extreme way. Now, you know, I also talk to my psychologist sometimes. It's like you didn't, like, you are able to create that space or do something different without needing to like actually extract yourself so much. You're able to do that. But for me, I felt like I needed something like more extreme. And I feel super grateful for being able to create that time to have something more extreme, because I was ready for like getting out of that box. I was like, I want to so bad to, like, you know, experience something different. And I felt kind of trapped into like just my routine and all the things that I had to do, you know. So I'm grateful for having now this time to do something different, extreme. But it's like you're still yourself, and the way your mind operates and all the patterns when you're at work, they're still there when you're in the couch doing nothing, you know. And now it's like trying to understand how my mind operates and how myself operates in both ways. So when I'm ready to like integrate into whatever is that I'm gonna be integrating towards the, you know, the end of this time off, to be able to to understand better how can I function in a stressful environment, and in like I don't know, whatever it is that I'm going to decide to do, understanding myself better and being able to then bring these things that are important, right? To be present, to allow, to transform these feelings of anxiety or fear or overwhelm with things in a different way, you know, because we can get overwhelmed sitting in the couch, or I realize that, you know, like I can get myself into feeling overwhelmed even without anything to do. And this is how, you know, and it's beautiful to be able to learn about yourself. That's what I've been most excited about this experience.
And it's like once you learn more about yourself, you're able to navigate all of these different spaces. And like, you know, like you're saying right now, you feel like you need to throw yourself into an extreme. Like I'm in the space where I'm getting myself out of extremes. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's so interesting. I love watching and observing so many different people at different times of my life. Like I remember when I was doing certain extreme things to get myself into and out of different things, I would look at people who weren't doing extreme things as like, why don't people do that? And then it's like, and then after having years of doing extreme things, I'm like, I really understand why people don't do that. Like, I really get it. And you know, it's like every version of ourselves needs a different path. It needs a different navigation system. You know, like there might be something that's like a straight drive, but that risk is going up a hill and it's the nighttime and there's no light. So you're like, you know, that would get me there the fastest. And or there's like the long route that's, you know, maybe there's some lights, or maybe it's just not on a hill, so there's less of a risk, but you'll get to the same destination. And that's the beauty of humans and understanding ourselves. There's times that we need extremes and there's times that we don't need extremes. And it's like, and usually we want the opposite of what we need, you know, like in those moments. Like right now, it's been really hard for me to not do extreme things. Like I've been trying real hard, like to just pace myself and do little things and like growth and what grace looks like, right? And then as opposed to like, I'm going to rip everything up and start new and have it be an extreme thing. And then I know from a lot of people that have communicated coming from the other side of more of like a calculated or graceful, like I understand where I'm going. Like I don't want to break a mold or do anything extreme, because when am I going to come back to myself? How am I going to, you know, control the situation or like have an understanding of safety? Because innately that's where control is coming from. You know, control and ego gets demonized constantly, but they're both just protective systems, you know, so not villainizing them and just looking at them as like, oh, you're trying to help me. You might be like almost like an overprotective sibling, right? Like it's like, oh, you're embarrassing me. You might be doing a lot, but like you mean well. You mean well, like you love me. These are parts and systems created in our brain, in our body, in our being to protect us from whatever whenever it happens. And now it's just about being like, you know, telling our older sibling, like, hey, I'm an adult now. Like, I can protect myself. Thank you for always having my back. But, you know, we don't need to, like, do
All
that.
the time. Yeah. No, and this thing of like the extreme and the, like, you know, seeing yourself on a more extreme path or on like the usual and like the more, you know, the plan and this, you, the common thing between the two of them is that you're going to be you regardless of where you are. If you are on the plan, 9 to 5 job, making, you know, your money there, or if you just decided to do something completely different than the usual, you know, what the society expects or what, whatever is the expectation, you know, something that's unusual, you're going to be you in both places, you know, and you're going to bring your baggage and bring your fears and bring your excitements and bring to both those places. And I feel like the most important thing navigating wherever you're going to be navigating is knowing about yourself. Yeah. You might know everything about the path, everything about the extreme, like you just get involved into like planning about that and like really like if you're able to understand about yourself, that's how you're going to be able to navigate both sides and like. And then this extreme for me is it's like really this journey of like really looking inside and deep of me, like that longing or that thing that was missing. Like, how can I build those parts? Like, what are the things that make sense to me? What are the things that I need, that I want to have in my life? Yeah. So wherever path I am in the extreme or the normal, I need to cultivate those things. Yep. So I'm in a good place wherever is the path that I'm following, you know. So this is what I've been realizing, you know, that and this is what I'm super excited about, to be able to take this time to feel good about myself and put these little things that I find that are important for me, whichever path I choose to follow.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you having your own back, you understanding yourself, you providing the safe space for you to exist in your own vehicle, in your own mind. Like, I feel like that's not talked about enough, is like feeling safe in our own head, you know, and doing these different things where we are understanding ourselves and giving ourselves space. Like, hey, I want to give you attention. What do you need? What are you aching for? What do you want? You know, we can thrive in any environment, in any situation, in any space. And you can always bank on yourself because you know yourself. So it's like, how do you expect to believe in yourself if you don't know yourself? And that's what I think, like, when it comes to you know, like affirmations and certain things, like I know for myself, if I don't have an inclination that I believe what I'm saying, I don't really affirm it. I'm not like a fake it before you make it type person. And we were talking about this on the previous podcast. Like, it's one of those things where finding truth, right? And even if like you're not feeling the most confident, finding something like, oh, okay, maybe you don't feel the most confident physically, but finding something about your physical body that you love, like, and being like, oh my God, I love my eyes, and just affirming that to yourself is being honest. It's being honest, right? So it's creating that energy of honest and trust within yourself, rather than lying to yourself and being like, oh, I love your hair, when you're like going through a rough hair day. You know what I mean? It's just like finding it, just being honest with yourself, and that could be applied to the mind. Like, oh, I love the way you think. And it's like, maybe you've been having like a really hard, like overthinking day. And it's like, so maybe you're like, oh, I love the way you think about things that you're passionate about, and how you want to educate everybody around you on these topics because it's so important to you and to the world. You know, like talking to yourself and finding those things and like expanding them. Like, I'm picturing like a Zoom on a phone or computer, you know, like expanding those things, and then that itself, the energy of that is a breeding ground to find more reasons to love and believe in yourself. And that, I find, is the most helpful motivator when it comes to like affirmations and words. It's not that I strongly recommend affirmations. You know, we started the podcast off with them, you know, and it's just like finding the different things, the love language of yourself, and you're only going to figure that out if you talk to yourself.
Yeah, it's cultivating, self-love and the self-acceptance. And sometimes it's funny, like when we talk about these things, we feel like, oh, nowadays people talk so much about it. But it is important, like it is important to cultivate those things. You're not going to get out of a place of fear, out of a place that you can, like, when you know that there's something missing, that you like want the courage to do something different, right? That's our topic. Like, for you to be able to create that courage and to step out, you need to cultivate these things in yourself, because for you to feel courageous, for you to feel brave, you have to cultivate that feeling within you, and that you have to trust in yourself, and how are you going to trust yourself if the image that you have of yourself is just terrible, or like you're just hugging into like all the things that you don't love about yourself, you don't love about your life, you don't love, and sometimes we can really get into these negative spirals, and that's what sometimes just pull us from having the courage to take the step to do something that really feels right inside of us, because we're focusing on the things and we're looking at ourselves with being very hard on ourselves, or like just getting, like, we all have beautiful things inside of us, and sometimes it might not seem, but it's like you said, you pick in that one thing, and like and that thing will grow on you, and will, like, cultivating that self-love and that self acceptance will create the power for you to take the steps into the things that you love, and there comes with like basic things. Sometimes when I was in such a negative spiral in my previous job, and that I was feeling overwhelmed, that I was tired, that I was sometimes even feeling like, is this what I want to do? What took me out of that place was self-love, of like taking time for myself, of like, I need to sleep. I need to eat well. I need to wake up and have breakfast. I'm not allowing myself to, like, because I have to be at the job so early. Like, I love having breakfast, like, and these little things, sometimes they feel like they're not so important, or we're so busy with the things that we're doing, but they are the first steps, and they are what are going to build into you the confidence to take that step and to go towards your courage to do something different, so I've this part of like knowing about yourself, and just loving and embracing yourself and accepting all the parts of it, and just trusting yourself, trusting the process I feel like it's the most important thing to be able to get out of that box, and grow out of it.
For sure, without a doubt. And it's like I wanna expand on what you're saying about courage, and I also want to give homage to Brene Brown, an incredible speaker and psychotherapist. And she always talks about courage. In order to be courageous, you have to be vulnerable. So if any of you are listening, and or even to our future selves, if there's a moment where you're feeling nervous, or you're wondering like if you should take a leap, and like asking yourself, like, are you ready, and are you willing to be vulnerable for what it is that you want to do, because if we think of vulnerability, and vulnerability can look or feel like even in definition is like out in the open and able to be harmed. But in order to take any risk, like, you're risking potentially being harmed. Even crossing the street, like, you could look both ways. Like, the thing is like, there's risk in everything we do. We just gotta see, like, what is it worth it, and really asking yourself, like, are you ready to surrender to being vulnerable, to not knowing something, to starting something new? Because we want to start things and be amazingly good at them, because of course it feels good to be good at things, but it doesn't work like that. Even sometimes it does, and it really doesn't. Like, we might be super good at one thing and then find out we know nothing about the other half of it. So it's like, just reminding yourself in those moments of transition to be like, I believe in me. My courage is coming from my vulnerability. Having the opportunity to even speak about what we think, what's going on internally, to speak about that externally is extremely courageous. It's extremely vulnerable because, well, yeah, of course, like I could take something and you can take it and use it to potentially harm me, but like, will it actually permeate if I know why I said what I said and how I meant it, you know? So it's like even erasing the fear in a lot of these situations and circumstances can give us, or maybe not erasing, but minimizing and like integrating the fact that like there is always going to be a risk with everything we do. If there's a risk in settling, there's a risk in settling. And what's that risk? That's the biggest risk you could ever take. That's going to be not being happy with yourself, not being happy with another, with the situation, with the circumstances, and not believing in yourself and living with the idea, the concept that you didn't believe in yourself to make a change. So you choose, then you weigh them out. Like, okay, this is scary right now, but do I want to literally live in regret for the rest of my life? Like, which one holds more weight? And you'll see which one flies up, and just creating the space and putting it into the perspective of that. It's like, I believe is for you to find the middle ground of like, not just being like throwing caution to the wind, being like, yeah, whatever, let's just do whatever. But also not being like, okay, if I'm going to do it, it has to be like this. And it has to be like that. Because it's like, it's not realistic. We don't live in a perfect world unless we're talking about mathematics. But even that is like, interesting and mysterious, like it's like, but that's only one aspect of the world. There are perfect or seemingly perfect things that can exist in our reality, but we don't even understand them. So who's to say what is perfect and what isn't perfect, and who created the definition of that, and what are we upholding that standard to? It's not realistic, so just giving yourself the space to just be,
vulnerability is beautiful. And actually, this is one of the things that when I'm like trying to dig into like, what is my passion, what do I like to do, and what I've realized is that the moments that I'm the most happy about, that like really shines a light in like my eyes and in my soul, is when I see vulnerability happen. Like, as as a physician, the moments in my job that makes me super happy is when I'm able to create a connection with a patient that makes her feel like she is able to be vulnerable to share something with me that maybe she didn't share with anyone else. Or the space of vulnerability is a space of growth. And that space is very special. We put all these cautions trying not to be vulnerable, because sometimes it's scary to be vulnerable. It's scary to talk about something that you've been carrying with yourself for so long, that you have so many doubts that you don't even know what to do with it, and you think about like, what is someone going to tell me, what going to think about it? What is it? Again, the fear coming up of like all these things, but when you're able to be vulnerable and open up, you're creating space for growth. You're creating space for maybe, for help, someone to, listen to you and come up with an idea, or just hearing yourself opening up. It's already like a process of like, okay, I'm doing something different. I'm talking about this now, and obviously it's something very important for me because I'm so fearful about it, and then it just creates a different perspective. And so, yeah, I like vulnerability is beautiful. Like, I love to see, like, it's one of the things that really gives me joy is like when I see people really coming from an open space, from like a vulnerable, a real feeling. Sometimes we're just talking so superficially about
surface,
things.
How are you? I'm good. I'm fine.
And how many people in our lives or in our daily jobs or in like a family even, we are having all these superficial conversations, and how lonely it is to just be on that surface, like it's almost like you don't allow yourself to, like, sometimes you need to really vomit out things, or at least maybe here and there, it's important. I feel like it creates connection, it creates a space of connection, it creates a space of growth. So we need to learn to be more vulnerable. And I feel like I'm someone that I'm pretty good about talking about my emotions with people, which some people have a little bit more difficulty. But then, like, also looking into other things that sometimes I'm like, oh, I know I don't allow myself to be so vulnerable in that sense. You know, there's always things in your life that you are kind of hiding, or you're
get more reserved with.
And then I think like also like focusing on those things that you are that you have that difficulty might help, you know, opening up growth in other areas of your life. Yeah.
And it's like, it's not only is it helping others and has the potentiality to help others, but simultaneously you're helping yourself that didn't speak about it. Whatever, look, anytime you speak about something new and you are vulnerable externally, you know, even if it's on a recording or a video or whatever, like you're giving that part of yourself that suppressed it freedom and space to breathe. And that's a beautiful thing, because it's like, no matter what, anytime you're vulnerable, you're at least helping one person, and that person's you. And that's beautiful.
So that's why I say, like, the interactions that I have with patients, and it just makes me smile now when I think about these little moments that I have, is that sometimes they say something and I'm like, I have no idea what to tell you back, you know, like this, you're sharing something that like, I don't know, but just that moment, it is already a healing moment. It's already like, I felt like just the experience of the person feeling it, being able to open up to that, even if I don't have the best advice to give, it is already a moment of healing and growth, you know? And going back to that, like having the courage to do something different, having the courage to step out of your comfort zone, that's vulnerability, you know? You're opening up yourself to things that you are unsure of, like that you don't know. But there's something that I always like to think is that for every decision you make, there's something that you're leaving behind. So even if the decision is to stay where you are and not get out of the box, you're leaving something behind. You're leaving the possibility of doing something different. Okay, so sometimes we're always like so trying to be safe in our own thinking that we're not going to lose things because I'm safe here in my space, but you're losing all the things. Ooh, I get excited and start moving my hands around.
You're good. I do it all the
You're
time.
losing all these things that are like outside of your zone, and you know, and there might be beautiful things there. There might be crazy things there. There might be bad things. There can be anything, you know. But you're not gonna find out if you don't take the step to go there. You know. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it could be everything you've ever wanted in that space. You know, so it's interesting. You know, it's so interesting how, like, it's the other side of fear, you know. It's the flip of the coin, you know. And yeah, is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, I think I'm actually very happy about our conversation and how it unraveled, and again, letting you know how grateful I am for the experience that you provided me today.
Of course.
It's cool. It's even like you talking to yourself, like you said before, you know, like. And then hopefully, you know, people that listen could get something that resonated with them, or, you know, feel like I was able to give you a little kick into like that thought that you had in your head. You know, I think we all have the tools to be courageous, and starting, you know, with that of learning about yourself, the self-love, the self-care, and building on into trusting yourself to take that step. We all have these tools, and the part of like being present and stopping to like be so overwhelmed with the things that are around you, allow you to have that time to build that courage. And that's it. Maybe if you let me, I'll continue talking here. Got pretty comfortable with this.
Yeah. It's once you get onto the set, it's just like, we're here. we're having a
Yeah.
conversation, we're drinking some tea. You know, a bunch of people might be listening in at some point, you know,
Yeah.
but right now, here, now, in the
It's me and
moment,
you,
it's
and
me and you
we're
having this
yeah,
conversation.
and it was beautiful. I
For sure.
really enjoyed, Ashley.
Yeah, I
Very
really enjoyed having you too, and thank you so much for like sharing your insight and for all of the things that you do and that you're going to do and everything that you've done. You know, so just want to give you acknowledgement for all of that. And yeah, to bring to conclusion, I sometimes I the same way I start off the with the bowls. Sometimes I end with cards, and today I wasn't really feeling to, despite the stack I brought with me. I actually just seen in my mind's eye just one of these, and this this book. So this book I got in one of the biggest bookstores in America. It's in Oregon, and I walked past it, and like, I love eyes. Like, I've always been obsessed and fixated with eyes. And I was like, what is Mind Platter? You know, it's like, I strongly recommend it for anybody who likes poetry. And yeah, so what I do, I'll like close my eyes. I'll be like, what do I need to hear? Or like, what does everybody need to hear today? And I'll just open up to a page. But if you would like to, would you like to do that?
sure.
Yeah.
I
So you
can
just,
Let's
set
see.
your intention to open up for what is the message that you and anyone needs to hear.
All right. I guess we open up in a very a very pertinent topic here on page 39, and the oy, it
That's
starts
okay.
saying off as questioning trust question mark. That's the topic. How many times have you told yourself, that's it, I'm never trusting anyone anymore? Then you go on, you meet new people, and you trust them. Sure enough, eventually you go back to your initial realization that no one is trustworthy. What is the true meaning of trust? We need to evaluate our beliefs and redefine what we consider trust to be. I'm sure that for most people, it means being able to tell someone your secrets, whether they are about you or not, and expecting that they won't reveal them to others. That is called being able to listen and not repeat what you just heard. If that is your definition of trust, then the solution is simple. You need to aim to assess your purpose in speaking about yourself or others to anyone but yourself. If someone was not trustworthy because you found out that they repeated something you said, then how many people's words have you repeated without them knowing? Ask yourself, what is my purpose? Before you say anything that you consider confidential. That really is not the definition of trust. Think about it. Define it in your head. Take time to reflect.
That's
Interesting.
beautiful. That's beautiful way to end off too. Is just like really getting in tune with that question for ourselves. Like, what is our definition of trust?
Of trust.
What does that look like? You know, we throw around the word trust and loyalty all the time, but what do the words that we're repeating could have had such different meaning a few years ago than they do right now. Like today, ask yourself, you know, I want to invite you guys, like, ask yourself, what is it? And what does trust mean to you? You know, and like, how can you then trust yourself?
Yeah, I feel like in the sense of what we spoke about, and this poem kind of coming in together is about, like, you know, trust has a bit to do with vulnerability, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Of opening up, you know, and I think that's kind of a little bit what they were trying to say there, you know, like trust is not just like, I want to keep this for myself and you can't say these things. It actually trusts in a way of like, of a more expensive trust of like, I'm vulnerable enough to trust the process. And then again, it's just relative on how you how you see things or how you want to interpret the things that are around you.
Yeah, and witnessing yourself too, like when you're like, oh, like I trust, and then all of a sudden like a spider crawls on you and like you jump and you're like, or you try to like knock it off, and it's like they'll always, I feel like the universe has such a funny sense of humor, because things like that will always happen. I'm like, I trust, I want to be one with everything around me, and then one from something around me will come and it startle me, and then I laugh because I'm like, oh, you're checking
Yeah,
me
you're
right now.
checking.
Like you're checking, like
You're
do you
making sure,
really?
do you really trust?
Are you really ready to surrender? You know, and like
Uh-huh.
that's a journey. Like I was just talking to someone recently about bees. Like I was terrified of bees because my father had gone in, his throat had closed when he had gotten stung by bees. But he also got stung by like a whole hive when he was a kid. So like that's how that happened. But I haven't gotten stung. So like I don't know what my reaction is. So I had such a fear of bees. But I normally wear a lot of beadwork. I have some beadwork from indigenous peoples in Colombia that I had, you know, got symbolically also to just remind myself of my roots. And, you know, they're very bright colored and a whole pattern. They're tiny beads and like small stitchings. And there, I was outside of a sweat lodge. I was waiting for like, you know, the prayer. They were lighting the fire, and I was sitting there like looking at the fire, and a bee landed on me, and it tried to like suck nectar out of my bracelet. But I was freaking out. You know, I was freaking out. I forgot what I was praying about, and everything I was praying about, this bee was telling me. Like this bee was the delivery system for everything I was praying about. But I was getting in such panic I couldn't realize it. Like I couldn't identify it, right? So I was just like, okay, but I did enough to be like, just breathe. Like don't like move, just sit. So I just closed my eyes and I felt like the little like pegs trying to like
touching you.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, it thinks I'm a flower. I'm like, that's so beautiful. Like, that's incredible. Trying to pollinate me right now, you know? And I was just like, wow, that's amazing. And I just like allowed myself to surrender. And once I surrendered to that moment, what that bee meant for me, and being like the sweetness in life, but also the collaboration. Like bees are so fascinating. I strive to be like a bee. A bee knows its purpose. A bee's going to go pollinate the flowers, go back to its hive, and it's going to bring back the cultivate the honey, like go back to its group of other bees, you know. And honeybees are incredible, and I strive to be like a bee. And the reason why I mention all of this is because that was a test from the universe. That was one of the first times I really heard it. You know, it's like we constantly pray for signs, but really we should be praying for the ability to decipher them, because they're all around us all the time. So it's like, you know, what people want to be like 5, 4, 4, 4, but like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? In the moment, what were you thinking about in the moment you seen 5, 5, 5? Because that means that might be something you need to change, right? Because 5 symbolizes change. So it's about, you know, what was I thinking about in my prayer before that bee landed? Once I tied those two things together, like I have a little bee on me from where it landed, like because to symbolize that moment, to remind myself that even if you're afraid, like I was terrified, I was petrified, like, and I let it last for a little bit, but once again, I'm a human, right? So once it started going up to my neck, I was like, all right, like,
I need space.
I'm like this. I'm like, you know, I feel like I hit my maximum for today, but thank you so much. You know, I like lay down on the floor. But my point of bringing all of this up is just like, don't be surprised when you pray for something that it comes to you in a way that you would never imagine, you know? So just be receptive to the things around you, especially the things that scare you, especially the things that scare you. So with that being said, I'm going to just pull a card from the numerology deck for anyone who is open to receive that. If it's your thing, if it's not, then thank you so much for coming today. I'm going to pull just one card for anybody that needs some encouragement going on their path of change. What is it that can help them ground themselves? Patience. And sacral chakra. So orange, right? Orange, patience too. Allowing yourself to have patience with the way that you transform. Some things might, even if you do extreme things, the transformation might not integrate as quickly as the change itself. So just being patient with that, and also being patient with your process if it looks like it should be slower. Everyone has a different journey. Everything looks different. I know it's really hard to integrate that all the time when we're constantly looking at social media and different videos of people doing all these things and 1, 2, 3, this is how to solve your life and all of this stuff. Like, you know, simultaneously, I just want to stress whoever is listening and whoever this message is for, if it's resonating, like, don't compare yourself. I know it's hard, so I'm going to say try not to compare yourself. And remind yourself how incredibly, get curious and take in every breath and be present with the process of whatever change is coming, whatever change you're cultivating and creating. Being patient with yourself is going to give yourself the space to love, trust, and believe in yourself more and more and nurture yourself, because you are not abandoning yourself. Being patient with yourself is literally not abandoning yourself. You're like, oh, okay, it's going to take you a half hour to get ready. I'm not going to assume you're going to be ready in 15 minutes. I'm going to be with you every step of the process, every brush of your hair, every stroke of your mascara. Like, I'm going to be right there with you, meaning like your energetically, emotional, mental body with your physical body. So, and when you feel yourself, which you will, because we're human, right? When you feel yourself eject and start thinking about the plans for the future or the things for tomorrow, you're hungry, you have a song, and anything to not be in the moment of you in your process of wherever you're at, just gently tug yourself back and invite yourself into the present moment again. Be playful about it, you know. So I just wanted to let you guys know that this is the message, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone who is listening. I hope this finds you well, and tune in next week.
Yes.
Bye.